So take it from there.
Hi, thank you so very much, and thank you for the opportunity, Madlena, and nice to see some familiar faces. Randy and Pamelia and Jim, we've all met before, and I seemingly have found a family connection with Brian there. So my connection to this group is that apart from being a theatre practitioner and an actor and a radio man and working in media for a very long time, I'm also a certified non-medical hypnotherapist. I used to have a practice here in South Africa, a very busy practice, but my life has sort of moved on from there. I do have a podcast called Hypnosis Works, and I'm about to pivot that so that I can include all of you beautiful people as well, and the whole holistic community. So really started this business last year with my son, my eldest son, who is an award-winning radio producer. And we joined up to form Baird Media. We're in the content production space, more specifically podcast. You can see we say we're the podcast people, but what makes us a little bit different from the regular podcast producers is we like to repurpose a podcast. And that's really what I'm talking about tonight is how to get the most value out of your existing content, and specifically from a podcast. So most people who produce podcasts, they record the episodes, they put them out, and that's kind of the end of that. They just get into a rush to produce more and more episodes, and some people don't get past episode 10. Pod fading is a very real thing, because people underestimate the amount of work it takes to actually produce a quality podcast on a regular basis. So once you produce the podcast, that really should only be the beginning of your content journey, because you've got so much content in your podcast and your series that you've already produced that you can simply repurpose that and get a ton of value out of that. Even producing as few as 12 episodes, putting out one a month, can supply with enough content for the whole year. So I don't know if you're like me, I sit every morning in front of LinkedIn and think like, what am I going to post today? And it's sometimes a challenge. And when we get busy in our businesses, we tend to forget and neglect these aspects. And so you get to a Friday and you think, oh my goodness, it's Friday and I haven't even posted anything yet. I haven't written an article for my blog. I've designed no graphics, and you get into a tailspin. And of course, soon these things run away with you. So what we propose is that you, even if it's a limited series podcast, that you do that. And the reason for a podcast is, one, it's relatively easy to produce. Two, it's relatively inexpensive. You don't need fancy equipment and cameras and all sorts of things. You can literally do it on your phone or have a $500 setup to start a podcast. So there are many ways that you can do it. It can be you on your own, or you could get a regular guest, maybe a co-presenter, or you could do interviews with people in your field. So the advantage of that is that it situates you as an expert in your specific area of expertise. And people would start looking up to you, especially if you produce regularly and consistently. People tend to look up to podcasts and go like, these people actually know what they're talking about. And that could, of course, have very many benefits for your business. So the podcast is, of course, very popular. It's the new medium that's taken the world by storm. There are something like 4 million podcasts, but only about 150,000 of them have produced an episode in the last week or two. So it seems like a crowded space, but it actually is not. There's so many podcasts that just have 3 or less episodes, and so many that have about 65% have less than 10 episodes. So while it might seem like, there's no space for me in the podcasting field, there actually is, because not many people are actively and consistently producing it. So I've just written a book about podcasting. If you want to find out more about the details of that, I'm happy to have a chat with you, maybe on a one-on-one, if you're really interested to find out, how to do get the best value out of that. So podcasting is not the only way to get into the content stream. Perhaps you've done some webinars, and people don't realize that you can easily repurpose a webinar into a podcast. Maybe you've done some YouTube videos. You can turn that into a podcast. So it doesn't really matter which way you start. It's easily repurposable into a podcast series, even a series of blog articles. Maybe you've written quite a few of those. You can easily just go sit in front of a microphone and read them. And of course, make it sound really interesting and not as if it's a read something. And you have a podcast series. Once you have a podcast, then the first thing you need to do is to have it transcribed. If it's an original series that has no written content, like a blog that you've repurposed into it, so you transcribe it first. There's some benefits into having it transcribed. Some people don't have the time to listen to podcasts and they just want to skim read quickly and see if there's anything in there that they can take out. Some people have hearing issues and obviously can't listen to podcasts, and therefore not transcribing it means you'll miss a whole huge number of people that would read your content instead of listening to it. Once you have it transcribed, then it's relatively easy to turn that into all sorts of written content. You could write your blog articles based on that. Maybe you'll do a little bit of extra research and take some quotes and things out of the transcript. Perhaps you can make your social media posts from your transcript. Just copy and paste bits and pieces of that, slightly, tweak them a little bit, and off you go. You've got content for LinkedIn, for Facebook, for Twitter, if anybody's still on Twitter these days, and whichever other platforms you use. And of course, once you've produced 30 or so episodes, or how many, you can turn that into an ebook. I'm actually busy turning my Hypnosis Works podcast into an ebook. And I've asked kind of the same questions to all of my participants. And then I'm going to sort of put the questions as a chapter. Each chapter will answer a question. And have various people talk about their experiences, how they started, where they trained and what their training consisted of, and all the other questions that I ask my guests. So as you can see, there's many possibilities for written content from a podcast and the transcript. Of course, you want to make some graphics out of that as well. So again, it's easy to get quotes and things from the transcript, or point people back to the articles or to the podcast itself by using a tool such as Canva and just making some graphics on there. If you don't have a graphic designer, of course, Canva is a great tool for that. So now you can get some graphics for Instagram and for, those slidey things that LinkedIn likes so much. And of course, people like to see pictures because they process that very quickly. Those sort of listicle things that people like to know. Seven advantages of hypnosis. There you go. You could just lift that out of your podcast transcription. So what is the other thing you can do with that? Let me just quickly check a slide here. There are so many things that you can do. GIFs, infographics, slides, screen shares. These are all things that can come from that. So you can also, of course, look at what content you already have, and then take a look at what your competitors are doing. Market research is also very important to tell you, what are the popular things. And then it's, of course, very important to understand who your target is. Who is the person that you want to really get with your content? So you've got to shape things specifically to that person. That really, in a nutshell, is my contribution for tonight. I know you said 10 minutes, but I don't want to take all of that. And I'm sure there are maybe some questions that you need to ask. We have a few podcasts. If you're interested in jumping onto that, as I say, I'm repurposing the Hypnosis Works podcast and sort of pivoting into the more holistic field. If you feel like jumping onto that, please just let me know. You can find me on the website there, baird.media. Just pop me a message there, or you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn if you are there. If you want to build your own podcast or have something that you want some advice on how to improve it or how to repurpose it, also please just let me know, and we can have a chat. I see Peter's got a question there.
Yeah, thank you for that great presentation. I'm curious to know, with all the things that we have to do, I thought about doing a podcast, but I haven't done it yet. So how would you describe the return on your investment? What do you feel the greatest return is for you? Um and so that was basically it.
So you have to think of content and content marketing and a podcast specifically as something that has a long shelf life. So first of all, you've got to make sure that it has evergreen content that will last a long time, not just Black Friday specials or whatever's happening today in the world, because people find things over an extended period of time. So the one great benefit of something like a podcast and content marketing in general is that you will reap the benefits of that for years to come. So it's not just like an ad you put out and people respond to that and that's the end of that. The other thing is that it's a great way to monetize your business, either by, like I said, you are the expert, you are the person who has the podcast, and people look up at your content as something valuable, and they come back and again to that, and that's a great way to get clients perhaps into your practice or your business. And you can also monetize it in other ways, by having a sponsor or by selling ads or having merchandise or getting a book out of it or things like that. So I think there are many benefits which are not really, I think, direct. It's more indirect return on your investment, because, as I say, the benefits will last for a long time. I hope that answers your question.
So it's more of a medium-term investment. It's not sort of you have a funnel, you put in, you place it on social media and you get to your direct market. This is maybe a complementary marketing program.
Yes, it needs to be part of your marketing mix. I think content marketing is an important part, but it needs to be part of a broader marketing mix. And of course, you can remarket it because of not everybody sees your posts all the time. So in 2, 3, 6 months, you can remarket things and you'll get a new audience. So as I said, that content has a long shelf life.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Any other questions? Thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm Hendrik from Baird Media. We are the podcast people. And I see Seamus has a question as well.
Yeah, thanks, Hendrik. That was really interesting. Can you describe any of the transcription tools you're using and the costs of transcription?
So I have tested a great many AI transcription tools, and quite honestly, the technology is not up to standard yet. The transcripts actually is a lot of work to correct. So I use a service where there's actually a person on the other end. It takes them 2 days to do it, and I get a very accurate transcription from that. I use a service here in South Africa. I could share the link with you. Very affordable and so on. But like I said, AI has a way to go. When I get an AI transcription, it takes me 2, 3 days to correct it. So, I'd rather pay somebody to do it and make sure it's 95% correct than some of these AI services.
So what are the typical costs of, let's say for 100-word transcription? Do you have any kind of guideline at the top of your head?
I could quickly check that for you. The service I use works on the duration of the audio that you send them. And I don't have the numbers right in front of me now. I could get them for you in just a second.
Okay, or we can get it offline, but I was just interested.
I'll pop them into the chat just now.
Brilliant, thank you.
Any other questions? Good, thank you very much.